Hi everyone, today we are going to continue reading Act 2 of Romeo and Juliet, and we will be reading Scene 3 and Scene 4 today. So Act 2, Scene 3, this is the next morning after Romeo and Juliet had their talk on the balcony, and Romeo is going over to Friar Lawrence's cell to ask for help with the marriage. So Friar Lawrence says, "Gray-eyed morning smiles on frowning night, and tired darkness stumbles away from the fiery light. I must fill this basket with weed and flowers before the sun opens his burning eyes. Great power lies in herbs and plants and stones. Nothing living on this earth is so foul that it does not give us something good. But there is nothing good that cannot be abused. Inside this small flower lies a strong poison with medical power. Smelling it will help any sick part, but tasting it will kill the strongest heart. In people as well as plants, good and evil lie, but if the evil is more, the plant will die." So Friar Lawrence is a holy man who's also interested in the medicinal purposes of flowers and plants. Here he says that there lies both good and evil in plants and flowers. Just like in people, there also is good and evil in all people. So that's something to keep in mind when we start reading the rest of the play, because he makes a good point there about how people can be good and evil at the same time. So Romeo enters. He says, "Good morning, Father." Friar, "Bless you. Who salutes me so sweetly this time of day? Son, could it be a troubled head that makes you rise early and leave your bed? Worries keep old men awake. Young men sleep well in dreams they make. Your being up early tells me that something is wrong. Is this true? Have I hit it right? Our Romeo has not been to bed tonight?" Romeo, "What you say is true." Friar, "My goodness, were you with Rosaline?" Romeo, "With Rosaline, Father, no. I have forgotten that name and that name's woe." Friar, "That's good, my son, but where were you then?" Romeo, "I'll tell you, before you ask me again. Last night I went to my enemy's dance. There Cupid's arrow struck me by chance. I met my love. We need you now to read us both our wedding vows. A Capulet is she, and I love her so. We wish to marry, though we both are foes. I will tell you more later. I hope and pray that you will consent to marry us today." So Friar Lawrence at first thinks that it's Rosaline that Romeo was with all night, so that's another example of dramatic irony. But then Romeo tells Friar Lawrence that he fell in love with Juliet, and he asks Friar Lawrence if he will help them get married today. So Friar Lawrence says, "My goodness, what change is here? Is Rosaline, who you did love so dear, so soon forgotten? Young men's love often lies, not in their hearts, but in their eyes. How many tears for Rosaline you shed! You've wasted them all on a love that's now dead. The sun in the sky has yet to clear the groans you cried in my aging ear. Have you changed? Oh, explain to me then. Women may fall where there's no strength in men." So here, Friar Lawrence is kind of a little skeptical about whether or not Romeo is really in love, because Romeo was just in love with Rosaline yesterday. So Friar Lawrence thinks that Romeo changes his mind way too quickly, so he doesn't know if he wants to help Romeo yet. Romeo says, "You always scolded me for loving Rosaline. You told me to bury my love." Friar, "You have buried one and dug up another." Romeo, "Do not scold me, friar. The one I love now loves me as well. The other did not." Friar, "Come, young man, come now with me. Your assistant in this I am happy to be. This marriage may have a happy ending. Let it join your families as married friends." Romeo, "Oh, let us go. We must do it soon." Friar, "Let us be wise, careful and slow. They stumble who go too fast." So Friar Lawrence does agree to marry Romeo and Juliet today, and he agrees because he thinks that the marriage will help end the feud. So that's really the only reason why he agrees to help Romeo and Juliet get married. So go ahead and pause the video here and fill in your reading guide for Act 2, Scene 3. All right, so let's read Act 2, Scene 4 next. So this is a new scene, and Mercutio and Benvolio are just walking down a street and they're talking. So Mercutio says, "Where the devil is Romeo? Didn't he come home last night?" Benvolio, "Not to his father's house, I hear." Mercutio, "That awful Rosaline is still torturing him. He will surely go mad." Benvolio, "Tybalt sent a letter to Romeo's father's house." Mercutio, "I bet it's a challenge to a duel." Benvolio, "Romeo will answer it." Mercutio, "Any man that can write can answer a letter." Benvolio, "I mean he will answer the challenge to fight." Mercutio, "Poor Romeo, isn't he already dead? He has been stabbed by Rosaline's looks, shot through the ear by a love song, and had his heart pierced by Cupid's arrow. Is there enough of him left to fight Tybalt?" Benvolio, "Is Tybalt a threat at all?" Mercutio, "More of a threat than any you know. He is an expert swordsman. His rhythm and timing are excellent. He has sliced the buttons off many a good silk shirt. He has been trained in the best fencing schools and knows all the best moves. Though he is a snob with fancy clothes and fancy talk, he is still very good with his blade." So here, Benvolio and Mercutio are talking about a letter that Tybalt sent challenging Romeo to a duel. And Mercutio is worried because Tybalt is a very good fighter. He's very good swordsman. So he's worried that Romeo will not be able to beat Tybalt. So Romeo enters the scene. Benvolio says, "Here comes Romeo." Mercutio, "He looks very thin, like a dried herring. Flesh. How are you finished, Romeo? You tricked us last night." Romeo, "Good morning to you both. What trick?" "You gave us the slip." "Pardon, good Mercutio, I had business elsewhere. I had no time for manners." Mercutio, "That's easy for you to say. Haven't you heard of courtesy?" Romeo, "You mean curtsy? Are you asking me to dance?" Mercutio, "Get in here, Benvolio. It's too early in the morning for me to be joking." Romeo, "Can't keep up? I win the match." Mercutio, "My, your wit is very quick and sweet this morning. It is a most sharp sauce. Isn't this better for groaning for love? Now that you're sociable, you are Romeo." So Juliet's nurse enters with her servant Peter. Nurse says, "Peter!" Peter, "I'm coming." "Give me my fan, Peter." "Good morning, gentlemen." Mercutio, "Good morning, fair gentlewoman." Nurse, "Oh, is it afternoon?" Mercutio, "I think so. I saw the hands on the clock choking noon dead." Nurse, "Get away from me. What kind of man are you?" Romeo, "A man made to wreck himself." Nurse, "A wreck? I should say so. Gentlemen, can any of you tell me where I might find the young Romeo?" Romeo, "I can tell you, but the young Romeo might be an old Romeo by the time you find him. For better or worse, I think I am he." Nurse, "If you be he, sir, I need to have a private word with you." Benvolio laughs to Mercutio and says, "I think she's going to take him to dinner." Romeo, "I'll go with you." Mercutio, "Farewell, ancient lady, farewell." So Mercutio and Benvolio leave, and now it's just the nurse and Romeo talking. So the nurse says, "My word, I ask you, sir, who was that man that was so full of himself?" "A gentleman, nurse, that loves to hear himself talk." So they're talking about Mercutio. Nurse, "Oh, I'll show him." "Peter, why did you just stand there and let him talk to me like that?" Peter, "I saw no harm in what he said. If I had, I would have drawn my weapon. I'll fight any man if there's a reason and the law is on my side." Nurse, "Coward." "But excuse me, sir. As I told you, my young lady Juliet sent me to find you. But before I tell you what she said, I must tell you something. She is a young and good woman. You had better not be toying with her or leading her on. Romeo. Nurse, send this. My regards to your lady. I promise. Nurse. All right, I will tell her. Oh, she will be a joyful woman. Romeo. What will you tell her, nurse? You're not listening to me. Nurse. Sir, I will tell her that you promise, which, as I take it, is an honorable offer. Romeo. Tell her to somehow sneak out this afternoon and go to Friar Lawrence's cell. There we will be married. Nurse. This afternoon, sir? She will be there. Romeo. Good nurse. Please wait behind the abbey wall. In an hour, one of my men will bring you a rope ladder that I will use to climb secretly to Juliet, my joy. Keep this a secret, and I'll reward you for your troubles. Nurse. Bless you. But can your man keep a secret too? Did you ever hear the saying, two can keep a secret if only one of them knows it? Romeo. I promise you my man's as true as steel. Nurse. Well, sir, my lady is the sweetest thing. Oh, there is a nobleman in town named Paris who is interested in her. She thinks he's a toad. When I tell her Paris is as good a man as you, she turns pale in anger. Romeo. Send my regards to your lady. Nurse. Yes, 1,000 times. Romeo leaves. Peter! What? Peter, take my fan. Let's go. So everyone leaves. So the nurse and Romeo just kind of made the plan that Juliet is going to sneak out of her house this afternoon, go to Friar Lawrence's cell so that her and Romeo can get married. Romeo also asks the nurse to go wait behind the wall and wait for one of Romeo's men to bring a rope ladder to the nurse so that she can put it outside of Juliet's window so that Romeo can secretly climb up to Juliet's room to spend the night with her. So that's the end of Act 2, Scenes 3 and 4. So make sure you fill in your reading guide for those two scenes.